Hello, I hope you're doing well today. We are back with another review. It's been a little while. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new SH Figuarts Dragon Ball Z Vegeta, Super Saiyan Vegeta, Dangerous Pride. So this is the latest Vegeta from the Cell Saga, and this is coming on the new either 3.0 or 4.0 body that SH Figuarts is putting out with the dynamic movable shoulder system. I don't know what all that means exactly, but we'll get to find out. And we're also going to be taking a look at this new Vegeta and seeing how he may improve upon this Vegeta here that came out a few years ago, Super Saiyan Vegeta, Awakened Super Saiyan Blood. So we're just going to take a brief look at this guy and just see how this guy may have improved, maybe what this guy even did better, because I can think of a couple things. And we'll just have a good time doing it. Before we do that, we're going to take a look at Mr. Vegeta's packaging. This is the regular SH Figuarts packaging. Here we've got the window here, and we can see the figure and some of his accessories, and he's got some more that you can't see inside the box. So I guess that would be less than ideal if you're trying to even figure out what you're buying in the store. Here we've got a picture of the figure on the side and just some more pictures of the figure, his hand, and we got some images on the back with a couple of poses that you can get him in, and then a whole bunch of rigmarole in Japanese that I cannot read. So there you have it. We're going to go ahead and get this guy out of the box and take a look at what he comes with. Alright, and here we have both of the Vegetas out of their packaging, and this is not some kind of camera trick or anything. The one on the left is just that much bigger. But we'll get a look at the figures up themselves in a little bit. Here we've got their accessories. I think the first thing I want to say is that this Vegeta has a lot more. He has more faces, and he has more hands, and he's got this extra hair part. So we'll just go ahead and take a closer look at what we've got. So first one, we've got kind of this pouty, frowny face. And his eyes are kind of looking off to the side. I would consider this a neutral face for Vegeta. So I kind of wish he was kind of just looking straight forward instead of off to the side a little bit. But everything is still painted well and all that. Next we've got a gritted teeth face. Also some side eye here. And again, painted well. So that looks nice. Then we've got our yelling head here. And this time the eyes are straightforward. So you can see, like maybe inside the mouth, some paint detail in there. And so all of those faces look pretty nice. One thing I will say I prefer about the older Vegeta is that his faces came with this hair attached at the top, and so the seam for changing out the faces was up inside the hair where you couldn't really tell, where this Vegeta, the hair changes, or you can change the faces at the hairline, and it's not always going to plug in as nicely. So you can see we have a much nicer, tighter connection here because the connection's actually back here. So that's just one thing to point out. Vegeta here also comes with a pair of these feet, extra feet. So in the package, Vegeta comes with these white boots, and you can change them out with these gold-tipped boots like this Vegeta has, the older one, if you wanted to do that. I'm not sure where or which part of the show, for what reason, his boots are different and look a certain way. I'll be honest, I don't really know. So, my bad. But you have that option. Next, we have a pair of crossed arms. And these are sculpted well enough. They are not reuse of these old arms, if you can tell. We got more glove here. And we have some more defined musculature, as is the style of the Cell Saga. Oh, I think I'm holding these arms backwards, actually. Okay, there we go. That makes more sense. But still, these are the newer ones, and they fit with the figure. I wouldn't say that one pair is better than the other necessarily. Vegeta here also comes with this windswept hair that we will take a look at in some pictures later, and we will talk about this, I guess, in the articulation, probably one of the more frustrating things about this guy. There's only one difference in the hands. So both Vegetas come with this wide open hand. This is for the new one. Let's just go ahead and see if they're even the same. They're not the same hands, so that's good. So this is a new Vegeta hand. He comes with these wide open hands. He also comes with these fighting pose hands here with the fingers. We can see the finger wrinkling and the sculpted detail in there. He comes with these clinchy hands, I would say. We can see some of that detail in there. So, and then one thing that this guy comes with that this guy does not have are these like flat, I guess, blasty hands. So everything is well sculpted. I will say I would have preferred if we had gotten this thumb hand that this older Vegeta came with rather than this pair of flat hands. All right, we've got the accessories put up. I'll say one thing that was exciting for some Dragon Ball Z fans about this newer Vegeta is how much shorter he was than this older Vegeta. This Vegeta was still pretty short next to other Dragon Ball figures, but not short enough apparently. So let's go ahead and get a height measurement of the newer Vegeta. I would say to his hairline, he stands about 5 3/4 inches. So he's a little boy. All right, for our first comparison, we're going to see how Vegeta stands up against the Games Begin Goku. This is the new Super Saiyan Goku, newish, that came out last year. This is how Goku appears in the Cell Saga with the harder lines and more defined musculature and edges and everything. So this Vegeta stylistically is the one that goes with this Goku, and as you can see, he is a lot shorter, and I guess that is show accurate. Vegeta is a short king. I thought that this Vegeta was plenty short. This one's a lot shorter. So there you have that. All right, for our next comparison, we're taking a look at Vegeta next to the demoniacal fit Super Saiyan not Trunks. And as you can see, Trunks is still taller than this Vegeta, but he's a lot taller than this Vegeta. So there you have that. All right, for our next comparison, here we have the Cell Saga Krillin. This is not the most recent Krillin. The other Krillin was from the Namek Saga, so this is the Krillin before the most recent Krillin. I think World's Strongest Man is what he's called, and so that's the scaling there. And people say this Krillin is actually too tall. So I don't know. I don't have a problem with the heights necessarily, but there you have that. Yep. All right, and here we have Cell Saga Gohan, and I don't have anything to say. There you go. Stylistically, this Vegeta obviously goes with all these other Super Saiyans I'm looking at for one major reason, and that's the hair. As you can see, this older Vegeta has the glossier metallic hair, and this newer one has the matte hair that fits more in line with these figures. So that's the biggest reason I would say that I was interested in this one, in the new one. To compare Vegeta against a martial artist from another line, here we have the Ultra Street Fighter 2 Fei Long by Jada Toys, and I would say scaling works well enough, I guess. I don't know. I can think of reasons maybe you would combine these lines, maybe, if you were using Fei Long as like a generic martial arts guy. So, and here we have a generic martial arts guy from Marvel Legends. Here we have the Wong from the Doctor Strange 2-pack. And lastly, here's Vegeta next to the DC Universe Classics, The Question. All right, we're going to pull in and take a closer look at this guy. So, again, the first thing to note is that he is a lot shorter as far as just the overall look. And I guess the silhouette on this guy is better. The musculature kind of makes more sense. We'll just go ahead and talk about it. This guy is how he's supposed to appear in the Cell Saga, and this guy is also how Vegeta is supposed to appear in the Cell Saga. Now, one thing that was notable about later Dragon Ball Z, including the Cell Saga, was sort of the harder, more defined sharper art style. So you can see that in this kind of more defined musculature, sharper muscles on this newer Vegeta. And this older Vegeta kind of has more rounded off, less defined muscles, which is how the style kind of was towards the beginning of Dragon Ball Z. But Vegeta never wore this in early Dragon Ball Z. He only wore this in the Cell Saga. So it makes me wonder why they were sculpting the figure like that at the time. But that doesn't matter now. We have this new Vegeta here. I would say colors overall, I think I do prefer, not that one. I do prefer this one. I think the blue is a bit brighter and a bit more saturated. So it kind of makes him pop a little bit more. This newer blue is a bit more dull, as you can maybe see there. So I would say that I probably, at least for the blue, prefer this older Vegeta. That might be the only thing color-wise I do prefer. I would say that the overall anatomy, the sculpt, it all looks more natural, looks more shapely. So I would say that that is all nice. All right, we're gonna pinch in and look at the figure up close a bit more. Here we can see we have the newer hairstyle, which is kind of the more flat, maybe even matte, dare I say. And I think there is a bit of a hint of orange in kind of near the hairline and maybe on the tips a little bit to kind of give it more than just that plain yellow color, even though I think just regular yellow with no orange is more accurate to the show, believe it or not. Looking at the side, we have our pointy Dragon Ball Z face. One thing about this older figure is that he had a really flat face, as you can see there. So this new head sculpt is preferable. I dropped this guy doing this video. He fell backwards and he's already kind of messed up the tips of his hair. So looking up close, we haven't looked at this face. This is kind of a smiling face. He's looking straight forward, so that's nice for some variety. And then we already talked about the musculature, and I would say that the sculpting on his armor is more defined. This is kind of a softer-ish sculpt on the older guy. Also really like the musculature in the legs here. We have a lot of that definition in the quads, and kind of pinches in, and then some thick calves. And I think I do prefer these newer non-gold tip boots to the older one. So that is nice. Happy to have it. One thing I don't like about this Vegeta is his really tall clenched butt cheeks that this older Vegeta doesn't really have because of the articulation. But that's just like, I'm not really going to be looking at the back of the figure. Okay, this is something I'm noticing for the first time. These straps in the back are kind of becoming disconnected. If you saw that. I don't know what that does. Maybe that's supposed to allow for more range, but it comes disconnected in the front too. So that's interesting. Yeah, with this older Vegeta, this piece was just completely sculpted as part of the upper part of the chest. I think this one is kind of got a bit of a separate thing going on here. No shading on this guy anywhere, which is sad, but the older one didn't have any shading either. It'd be nice to kind of see that brought back to the Figuarts line, but that's kind of been long gone now. So I think as far as the aesthetic goes, I would say overall that this is a better looking Vegeta than the older one. The older one still has its charms, but we've got this newer one now that looks more accurate to the show, shorter, more defined muscles. The hair is preferable, at least for me. So happy to have this guy. His face is a bit glossy now that I see it. Maybe that's just the lighting. But anyways, now that we've taken a look at his aesthetic, we're going to take a look at his articulation. One thing I want to point out about the articulation on this guy is the way that his ball hinge neck connects to his hair. So if you want to swap out the hair, the ball hinge is like, it's a peg, the ball hinge, and another peg. And that second peg on the other side of the ball hinge plugs into the back of his hair, if you can see that, instead of the top, which makes changing it out complicated for sure. And I don't know how that affects the range necessarily. I think that's just SH Figuarts over engineering for the sake of it. So I'm not really bothered by it. I'm not going to use the other hairpiece, but I will use it for pictures, so I'll probably be frustrated when I try to change it out for pictures. But functionality-wise, I mean, like, it kind of works. Vegeta can only look up that high for reference. That's normal. And then he can look down that much, which is fair, I guess. And you're going to be getting a lot of, like, the tilt in his neck joint, so he can actually get a lot of tilt there. So that's nice. I'm glad to have that. So next up, we have our new dynamic shoulder system, which I think is just ball pegs, ball sockets inside, like all the other lines are doing, like McFarlane and Storm. So it allows them to get all of that motion there. You can raise the arm up, lower it, bring it forward, bring it back, bring it across that far, across the arms that much. That's nice. You can bring the shoulders up there, or you can have them lower down here if you'd like that. We have a hinge here, and with that combined, he can get over 90 degrees with just the hinge right at 90. We get our rotation. We have bicep swivel here. We have double jointed elbows that I would say get enough range. One thing, we're going to talk about elbows for a second. I'll say that I like about this guy is that with something like a Jada Street Fighter, since I have him here, you can really see how the bicep tapers off here as it gets closer to the elbow to allow for that extra range. This figure doesn't necessarily do that. It kind of looks like he's got kind of a fuller bicep, and maybe that's just the style of the art, and he has a longer upper arm. But the bicep range is, this guy might get a slight bit more amount of range. So what I'm saying here is that I think this guy strikes a good balance between getting the range and having that nice sculpt. I would prefer to have good looking arms and just a slightly less bit of range in that double jointed elbow than the Jadas. So this glove here is not connected. It's a floaty piece. We have ball hinge wrists. I didn't mean to do that. So he can get out to the sides and up and down. So that's everything you would need. All right, moving down to the torso. This is my biggest issue with the figure. I will say this right now. It makes absolutely no sense. So we have our crunch forward there on that top joint. And you can go back that far. And we can see that he is connected via ball peg, and yet they sculpted all of this down the sides, so you can't even use it. He can't even move side to side. Let's take a look at this older Vegeta. He doesn't have the sculpt on the side here, and you could argue that it makes him look worse, but his articulation actually works. So side to side on this Vegeta, no side to side on this Vegeta, for really no reason. Looking at the lower joint, you can come forward that far, and then combining it, we've got about that much crunch. Coming back, there we go. And then he gets side to side on the bottom there. But like, that's the most side to side this guy's gonna get versus, gosh, this guy. So it makes a difference. It really does. So that's pretty disappointing that they would do that. You would think that for as long as SH Figuarts has been making action figures, they would improve, but they're doing things like this that make their action figures worse. One thing I will say is better about this new Vegeta is his hips. They not only look better, but they also get more range. So going forward, Vegeta kicks about 90, and then he'll have to twist off, and then he can get way up there. He's got a softer, I guess, diaper piece down here. And also this lower part of his torso is softer. Vegeta here also gets practically full-on splits. This older Vegeta only got about that far. So that's absolutely better. Here we have a thigh swivel on this guy. That works nicely. And double jointed knees that look all right and get all the range you should want. Down here, the boots are not one sculpted piece. There is a little bit of play to them, but not much. And then down here we have our ankle hinges that allow him to get some good side to side there. We can manipulate it to where he can point his toe forward that far. Point his toe up, not greatly. And here we have our toe hinge, which works well enough. So, what would I say about the articulation on this guy? Would I say it's better? Dare I say it's better than the old one? I mean, the torso is absolutely worse, but the hips are absolutely better. So I think it just depends on what you prefer. I personally would rather have good hips than a good torso, I would say, but we should not have to choose. So overall, would I say that this new Vegeta is worth getting? I would say yes. He's going to be the new standard for a while. Who knows the next time that we'll get another Vegeta in this outfit. He is pretty easily available. I got this guy at GameStop literally yesterday, and he was about $37.99 at GameStop. You're going to be able to find this guy. He's at BBTS, GameStop. You'll probably see him in Walmarts and Targets soon if he's already at GameStop. I thought GameStop would be a bit more delayed. They were pretty delayed getting the Games Begin Goku. So the fact that they had this Vegeta already like a month after he came out versus I waited several months for Goku, that's nice. So what do I say about this Vegeta? This Vegeta still has his charms. I might be showing pictures during this, so when I say this Vegeta, I mean the older Vegeta. What do I say about the older Vegeta? I would say he still has his charms. Nowadays, I don't think he would necessarily be worth picking up for this newer Dangerous Pride Vegeta, for a couple reasons. So the older Vegeta with the metallic hair, he's the same price now. He's an older figure, and he's still the same price as this new and improved Vegeta. And actually, when I bought this new Vegeta at GameStop yesterday, he was still sitting next to the older Vegeta in GameStop. Like, the boxes were next to each other, and they were the same price. So I would say if you're choosing between the newer Vegeta and the older Vegeta, if you want the Vegeta that's going to match your figures better, I would say the newer Vegeta. Of course, aesthetics is subjective. I gave you a good enough look at both of them so that you could decide, I would say. But I would just go ahead and say and get the new Vegeta, unless you can get the older Vegeta at a discount. I bought this older Vegeta to fill the shelf until I got the newer Vegeta, and I would say he did his job. I didn't really notice the difference in the hair so much, but now I've got this newer Vegeta, so I'm going to enjoy that, having that difference. I would say this older Vegeta, if you're a completionist or you get this guy at a major discount or you like the look of him, those are when he would be worth picking up versus the newer Vegeta. So both good figures, but of course the newer Vegeta is new and improved, and I do mean that. So thank you for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Go ahead and check out my series of shorts that I'm uploading each day. I'm taking a look at one figure from my collection each day until I look at everything I own. So thanks for watching, and goodbye.